All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome. Another exciting daily vlog is Daily Vlog 2026, number 177. And today, I need a drink, as always. All right, so for today, since we've had a couple videos now talking about the death of Essence 20 as Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers make the shift over to D&D 5.5, there is another system that seems to be making the leap somewhat. It was recently announced that Vampire the Masquerade is going to have a D&D 5.5 thing. Now, this is not the same as what's happening to Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers, where they're doing a second edition of each one of those games and are completely transitioning the system from Essence 20 to 5.5. This Vampire the Masquerade thing, which you can buy on D&D Beyond, it comes out July 28th, so little over a month away. What this is not translating Vampire the Masquerade into 5.5. What it is it's a new class for 5.5 called the Kindred, with a bunch of subclasses, a pre-written adventure, apparently set in the Dark Ages, and then a bunch of feats and origins and stuff like that to kind of support this new Vampire the Masquerade style character. Then they add two new mechanics, a Masquerade level mechanic and a narrated feeding mechanic. So effectively what this is it allows you to play a Vampire the Masquerade like adventure using D&D 5.5. And this is the thing that I find really, really interesting about it. I own multiple versions of the Vampire Guide. I've got Vampire the Masquerade, and then I've also got whatever their, not the World of Darkness, but they had another flavor of World of Darkness stuff. Let me look at it here. So I have Vampire the Masquerade. Maybe I don't have the other one. Let's check. So yeah, I think I have like old school Vampire the Masquerade, and then I have 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade. Yeah, so I'm familiar with Vampire the Masquerade. I myself have not played it, but I've read through the book quite a few different times. I've had friends that were into Vampire the Masquerade. So I'm familiar with the system in and of itself. I think I've built a character or two just for fun using it. So the interesting thing about Vampire the Masquerade, surprisingly enough, you play vampires. And in the lore of the game, they call themselves Kindred. And your class, because Vampire the Masquerade is kind of a class-based TTRPG, it really is its own thing, but the equivalent of a class is your clan. And in the lore of Vampire the Masquerade, each clan has its own things that it's good at. Like there's certain blood powers that certain clans are better at and certain clans are worse at. They also have philosophies that they tend to follow. Things like the Toreador. Toreador are kind of the aristocracy of the vampires. They're very into art and pretty things, and they tend to have a lot of social abilities. Whereas I think it's the Bruja. I'm going to look before I see the wrong thing. Where is... Really? Come on. That's all I wanted you to do. What did Bruja do? Radicals and troublemakers. Yeah, so they're the anarchists. And so they tend to be a little bit more fixated on kind of physical things and fighting the power and stuff like that. There's a grand total, according to the wiki, there's a grand total of 13 different clans. So to translate Vampire the Masquerade into 5th edition, instead of... Well, because of how 5th edition works, if you were to treat vampires as a race, because we do have not a vampire race, but we do have a Dhampir race that was introduced in the original Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the first Ravenloft book that was published for 5th edition. I think the new one also has the Dhampir race. I'd have to look again, but the problem with races or ancestries as they're called now in D&D is they really don't change that much about your character. They might give you 1 or 2 abilities, but that's it. And being a vampire, it doesn't quite work like that. Like you wouldn't be able to play Vampire the Masquerade using just the regular classes and make it feel like Vampire the Masquerade. So the way that they decided to do it is, instead of doing it like they would in Vampire the Masquerade, where every clan is its own class, they have a single kindred class, and then they have 6 of the 13 clans as subclasses to that. So we have Bruja, Gangrel, Lozumbra, Nosferatu, Toreador, and Ventru. So I find this really, really interesting, because one of the things that makes Vampire the Masquerade so unique, and according to some of the people I've talked to that were in the kind of TTRPG industry and kind of gaming industry back in the 90s, due to the fact that TSR, who owned Dungeons & Dragons, was effectively going bankrupt due to exceptionally poor management, Dungeons & Dragons was starting to lose its kind of massive gain against everyone else as far as market control. That's why Wizards of the Coast eventually purchased Dungeons & Dragons, was because TSR was going bankrupt. Well, the thing that was starting to look like it was going to be dethroning Dungeons & Dragons was Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness games in general. And one of the things that made them so unique is, again, your class system in the Giga game was these clans. And part of belonging to one of these clans was not just, well, here's your list of abilities and here's the things you get to do, the normal things that would be part of your class, but also each clan had motivating factors. Because the whole point of Vampire the Masquerade, the masquerade part of Vampire the Masquerade, is this idea that Vampire the Masquerade is set in the same time as you are living. And the basic idea behind it is vampires and werewolves and all that stuff are real. And the reason you don't know about vampires, the reason that you think that they're a myth, is because they all belong to this thing called the Masquerade. And the Masquerade is a set of rules that are enforced by, I can't remember the group off the top of my head, but they're actually enforced by this kind of ruling council thing of vampires. And most of the rules of the Masquerade are things like, don't go around flaunting your powers in front of humans. Don't go randomly feeding on people and leaving a trail of body. Anything that can cause you to reveal the existence of vampires to the greater world is considered a masquerade violation, and it can get you staked, which doesn't kill vampires, it just paralyzes them. Or it can get you actually killed, and I think in order to kill you, they'd have to behead you. So, the rules of the masquerade are, again, kind of controlled by this aristocracy, and kind of self-policing force. And so much of Vampire the Masquerade is about politics. Not like left versus right or something, but like, who knows who and who's in favor with this thing, kind of your classic, you know, Elizabethan political bullshit. That's what a lot of Vampire the Masquerade is, and it's about subtle moves and social, you know, moments and the things like that. And so because each one of the different classes, the clans, has their own motivation, their own relationship with the Masquerade, things like the Toreador really like the Masquerade because as long as they follow it, they can live in high society. They use their abilities and their longevity to get them into places of affluence, and then they use that to experience whatever they want. They can be very, very hedonistic when they want, and they get to appreciate art and beauty and things like that. And so they're all for the Masquerade. The Bruja thinks it's this horrible kind of controlling thing, and they want to overthrow the Masquerade and have more of an anarchist kind of association with vampires in general. And so in your regular Vampire the Masquerade group, you're going to have members of different clans. You can have two people from the same clan, because they're still kind of you're still able to kind of customize your character within your clan. But in general, most Vampire the Masquerade parties have at least a couple different clans represented in there. And what that creates is, no matter what's going on, no matter what the adventure is, the different clans have different motivations and different wants for how a situation is meant to resolve. And that creates inter-party conflict, which in Dungeons and Dragons really wasn't a thing. I mean, if you look at like 3rd edition, they actually had rules that prevented characters from adventuring with people who were too far away from them on the alignment grid. Party cohesion was a big deal, and inter-party conflict generally was viewed as a bad thing. And the World of Darkness just kind of really leaned into it and allowed that inter-party conflict to drive storytelling. And so because of that, it was doing something that nothing else was really doing at the time. Most TTRPGs, you were all on the same side. And in Vampire the Masquerade, you're really just allies of opportunity, and that opportunity can change very, very quickly. And so one of the things that I was told by one of my friends that was into the industry was the idea that Wizards of the Coast was, for 3rd edition, was thinking about trying to add some sort of faction system into the game to kind of mimic the unique storytelling that happens in Vampire the Masquerade, that inter-party conflict. So now that we have reduced the clans to subclasses, which I've had an entire rant that I went on about how 5th edition relies entirely too heavily on subclasses and really needs to get their head out of their ass about the idea that more than 13 classes can exist. Now we're seeing the complexities of each clan reduced to a subclass, which again is generally only going to give you 4 or 5, maybe 6 if you have a level where you get multiple features. You're only going to get 4 or 5 things that differentiate you from the other things. And uh, if it follows the rules of 5.5, you don't pick your subclass until 3rd level. So for 2 levels, there's nothing to differentiate one vampire from another, which goes completely against the idea of Vampire the Masquerade. The way that you join a clan is you don't join a clan, you are sired into a clan. Your clan is dictated by the vampire that sires you, that turns you into a vampire. And in Vampire the Masquerade, siring a new vampire is not simply done by like just biting them like it is in something. No, it's an actual kind of ceremony. It's something that they have to actively choose to do. It's not something that really happens by accident. There's a whole, I think it's called the embrace or something like that. But it's an active choice. And so the vampire, your sire, the vampire that turned you into a vampire, you will belong to the same clan that they do because you basically have that blood is a part of your blood now. The clans are effectively genetic. And that's why things like Nosferatu physically look different. That's one of the defining features of the Nosferatu is they look like, kind of half bat-like creatures. And Nosferatu kind of have to live in the shadows and sewers and stuff like that because they can't just walk around regular society like the Toreador are able to do because they just look like pretty humans. So yeah, the idea that they are kind of reducing the clans into subclasses, and from level 1 and level 2, you don't even know what your clan is. Like, that's a pretty big departure from how Vampire the Masquerade works. And we've had conversations in the comments of a bunch of my videos about the new Power Rangers games, and the idea that 5th edition is not, is not a universal system. 5th edition is a great fantasy tabletop RPG. Specifically, 5th edition is a great class-based fantasy TTRPG. Like, that's what it does really, really well. And I have seen things like Esper Genesis turned it into a science fiction one, and it actually worked okay. Esper Genesis actually has a lot of cool things in it. And Esper Genesis is what powered the Phantasy Star TTRPG, which again is very, very cool, and it works with the kind of theme. But to be blunt, Phantasy Star, while yes, it's science fiction fantasy. It's science fantasy. Because the main character in every single game uses a sword, and there's magic. So that works. Obviously, Neon Odyssey is going to try and take it to a complete science fiction realm. And we did see in 3rd edition science fiction versions of Dungeons and Dragons, specifically the Star Wars TTRPG that powered the Knights of the Old Republic games. Yes, Knights of the Old Republic is D&D in space. It's 100% D&D 3rd edition. That's what it is, if you didn't know that. So, I mean, you can bend it a little bit. But again, Star Wars, you still have people wandering around with swords, and there's still magic. They just call it the Force. Ooh, Maxi Big the Force. Well, that smells stinkawith. So, the idea that now we're going to use 5th edition to try and emulate Vampire the Masquerade, where they're I mean, you can have swords in Vampire the Masquerade. It's not impossible. That's not really what it is. And there is magic in Vampire the Masquerade, but they're blood powers. It's not the same as like the Vancine magic system or anything like that. One of the interesting things, this is a partnership between White Wolf, who no longer has the publishing rights for Vampire the Masquerade, just FYI. Renegade actually has the publishing rights for Vampire the Masquerade. That's why they're making and the whole World of Darkness series is all published by, designed and published by Renegade now. White Wolf in like the early to late teens, 2010s, or early to mid 2010s, went crazy, and the people that were running it said some very, very not good things about particular groups of people. And yeah, because of that, they lost the rights to World of Darkness, and the company kind of went belly up. Um, a new version of White Wolf emerged, I think, shortly after lockdowns and stuff like that. It might have been a little before, I can't remember. But they still don't. My understanding is they still don't actually own the complete publishing rights for Vampire the Masquerade. That is still held by Renegade. Um, so White Wolf is partnering with Ghostfire Gaming. Ghostfire Gaming has already done a lot of stuff. They're one of the trusted third-party publishers that are allowed to publish their stuff on D&D Beyond. Um, so I find it really, really interesting that White Wolf is partnering with Ghostfire to do this. And again, this seems kind of antithetical to how Vampire the Masquerade works. Like, I would be more open to the idea of this if instead of a single kindred class, they went, okay, well, we've created, you know, 6 vampire classes, which again still wouldn't quite be how Vampire the Masquerade works, but it would be slightly closer than making all vampires a single class. Because what that means is if you want to play kind of a more traditional Vampire the Masquerade game where everybody is a vampire, well, then you're going to have an entire party who only choose one class, and the only differentiation is their subclass. Now, is it theoretically possible that part of the base class, they're going to have things like the Battlemaster Fighter, where you have like these little a la carte boards that you get to pick and choose little pieces to kind of customize your character, or I guess the Warlock with their Eldritch Invocations, where they have all these little things that will help differentiate them more. I guess it's theoretically possible. I haven't seen this. But specifically to read, and this is going to be published on D&D Beyond, by the way, to read directly what they have here on D&D Beyond. Vampire the Masquerade Bound by Blood is the thing. Again, it launches July 28th. It's going to be $30. And it's digital only. There's no physical version of it. Take your place among the kindred. Define your bloodline with one of 6 clan subclasses. And explore deep player options forged in darkness. Descend into One Last Goodbye, a level 4 adventure of historical horror. This product includes 1. A complete new class, the Kindred, a full 1 to 20 vampire class powered by blood points, disciplines, and the ever-clawing beast inside. So they specifically list blood points, so they're probably not going to be using the Vancian magic system, or they might be using the Vancian magic system, and blood points are going to be work in a similar manner as like focus points or key points, whatever they call them now. Disciplines. In Vampire the Masquerade, disciplines were basically your different skills. Each different discipline would let you do different things depending on how much you'd invested in it. So that might be schools of magic, who knows. And then the ever-clawing beast inside. The beast in Vampire the Masquerade is the kind of predator nature inside every vampire. Vampires, by their very nature, are predatory, and they seek out prey to drain them of their life. Well, in order to abide by the masquerade, you can't just go around hunting and killing anything that you want. And so vampires have to suppress the beast. And different clans have kind of different relationships with the beast. But anytime you do something more predatory, feeding on someone, sometimes even just getting into combat, you sometimes have to make a beast check where you roll a die, and if you roll low enough, your beast level, or whatever they call it, goes higher. And once it gets to a certain point, you completely revert to your more kind of bestial instincts, and become just a pure predator, and the party has to kind of deal with that. So yeah, they're going to try and have that aspect in there. They're going to have these disciplines, which again, I don't know what they're going to be, but if I had to take a guess, they're going to play a similar path to Schools of Magic. And again, if I had to take a guess, your different disciplines are probably I would guess that this is probably going to be similar to like a half caster style um a half caster style class, whereas you get to higher levels, you get access to more disciplines, and then you use the blood points for something else, I would assume. That's my guess. Again, I haven't read this. They may completely throw out the Vancian magic system, but it's so ingrained in 5.5 that I'm not sure if they can. And then 6 iconic clans as subclasses is the second point. Play as Bruja, Gangrel, La Sombra, Nosferatu, Toreador, or Ventru, each with its own bane and signature gifts. The next one, a Dark Ages mystery for level 4 characters. One Last Goodbye, a 4-night adventure of grief, suspicion, and climactic clash of blood and fury. New backgrounds, feats, and forbidden gear. 5 kindred adjacent backgrounds, 25 plus origin and kindred feats, plus kindred vitae, and weapons of wood and silver. Vitae is what they call blood, so I'm not 100% certain what they refer to as kindred vitae, but I'm assuming it means something. And then the next is 2 new thematic mechanics. Rules for Masquerade level and narrated feeding bring the dread and tension of the world of darkness onto your 5.5e table. And then pre-order bonus, there's 2 D&D Beyond character sheet backdrops. Cool. So, yeah, like I said, it's weird, to say the least. And I don't know if this is an attempt by White Wolf to try and wrest some of the control back of the world of darkness or not. Again, I haven't been following White Wolf in a long time, so I don't know if they have been able to regain some of the control of it back or not. It's just not my thing. So if you know more about what's happening with White Wolf, feel free to fill me in the comments down below. Yeah, it's just, man. As many have pointed out, like, 5th edition is not designed to be the ultimate universal system. It's just not. And I don't think Vampire the Masquerade is particularly suited to 5th edition. And from what I'm reading here, I'm not particularly into how they're deciding to introduce Vampire the Masquerade. Because part of me could see this being, like, if they wanted people to play VTM using D&D 5th edition, if they did something like the One Ring, like I own the One Ring from, is it Kobold Press? Is that who did it? No. Oh, it's Free League. That's what it is. So yeah, the Lord of the Rings role playing. I thought I purchased this. Didn't I purchase it? Oh yeah, I own this as your part. So yeah. So the Lord of the Rings role playing is basically the 5e version of the One Ring TTRPG. So I own it, and what they did is they made their own classes and they have their own mechanics. So it doesn't just feel like 5th edition but Tolkien. Like, it does actually play different than 5th edition, despite the fact that it still uses a lot of the same mechanics. So if they were to do something like that, I could totally see this working. Fun fact, the Lord of the Rings role-playing for 5th edition on D&D Beyond costs $40. And that gives you 6 original heroic cultures, 6 new classes or callings, a host of terrifying adversaries, and comprehensive rules for adventuring, all designed to bring the rich world and subtle magic of Middle-earth to life. So, 6 classes, with subclasses, I believe, but I'm not sure. 6 cultures, which is their version of ancestries. Like, this is an actual completely, you don't need any Dungeons and Dragons at all to run this. It is its own separate thing. And it's a cool thing. Like, I think it's really interesting. I prefer the One Ring over it. but it's still very interesting. So for $10 more than what Ghostfire is asking for this, you get a completely unique TTRPG that's basically based on 5th edition versus the Ghostfire Gaming and White Wolf version, where they condense all of Vampire the Masquerade into one class and 6 subclasses, and then some feats and some new mechanical systems to toss on. Like, it's a bit of a hard sell for me. So yeah, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, do I have any VTM fans or any of the World of Darkness stuff out there? Let me know what your preferred World of Darkness campaign is. And what do you guys think about this? Are you kind of interested? You know, especially if you've never played any World of Darkness stuff, would this be something that might be the bridge that you use to start kind of migrating away from 5th edition into Vampire the Masquerade or something like this? Or do you kind of agree with me where it's like, this sounds like a bad idea and I don't think it's going to be particularly well received by anyone that plays World of Darkness games, and I don't think there's enough here that it's going to really interest a whole lot of D&D players. Maybe there's a few that just don't know anything about Vampire the Masquerade, and they go, finally, I can play this game that I've always wanted to play. Maybe that's the market that they're trying to target, but it's a weird market to target. Anyway, like I said, let me know your opinions in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today. I will see you guys next time, all right? Bye-bye.